The project appeared in a lot of television shows and films. The Philadelphia Experiment film dealt with Montauk. Stargate, SG-1 had similarities there.
That's
Our
right.
dear
There was
friend...
actually a show people may not remember in the late 60s and early 70s called Time Tunnel, which was, I think, based on that project.
Is the facility still in use?
The facility is not in use anymore in the same capacity as it was. The last information that I had personally from it when I still lived in that area was in the early to mid-1990s, when I was told it was used as a weather manipulation facility. However, the mind control, time travel, all of the others is no longer practiced in that area. But there are other areas in the U.S. and in other places in the world where those are still continued.
So, now we have HARP, of course, in Alaska, which might have picked up the load. Is that possible?
Well, HARP, is a different kind of project, and there is a sister project to HARP in northern Norway. And I recently met a man who was a helicopter pilot in Vietnam and then was transferred to the Alaska area, and he told me that there's at least 12 facilities that are related to HARP globally. And he personally saw this in northern Alaska.
I wonder if that's a reason why our weather is so screwed up, Stewart.
I absolutely agree. What HARP is doing is creating a shield in the ionosphere over the Earth and trying to create weather manipulation so that we think there's such things as global warming when in fact it's just a manipulation of our weather and geological events as well.
Let me ask you about the success of Montauk. Do you know if they accomplished anything that was just truly extraordinary?
Well, I think that they did accomplish their goal, and right now, 100% of the Earth is affected by mind control or scalar waves that are transmitted now from satellites in space that completely ring the Earth and are enhanced by ground antenna that we see as cell tower microwave transmissions, so that at any moment they can transmit a mind control wave to specific areas of the Earth, to specific people. And a lot of what's happening now with the chemtrails is also creating a web or a network around the Earth, like a shield or radio wiring, so that it's like a grid that covers the Earth, and they can pinpoint very specific locations now and transmit whatever they wish to create.
Just absolutely phenomenal. It employed how many people at the time when it was at its heyday?
Well, in those days, I was a mere subject. I wasn't in control of anything, so I had no idea how many people were in control, but I can tell you that there were at least hundreds of people that I used to see there, many of them in military uniforms, some of them in civilian, some of them looked like they were in scientific garb. There were so many different people, and they were different at various times. I didn't see consistent people all the time. So I think they moved people around. But I figured out over the years, over the 13 years, all the people that were used in the project, I estimate there had to be between 200,000 to 300,000 subjects of the experiment, and most of them did not make it.
Was there? What do you mean they didn't make it?
Well, I was told that less than 1% survived the experimentation. When you're bombarded with electromagnetic waves and microwaves and basically traumatized and tortured, very few can survive that kind of life. And in fact, a lot of the subjects were children, and so they just didn't make it.
Children of maybe some of the people who work there?
No, these initially they used orphans. They would use the children who were in foster care, people who they considered to be expendable and would not be missed. Then later on, as the program progressed, then they would start taking children from conventional families. People, there are so many kidnappings in this country, especially you notice it spiked in the 1970s and 80s, and these children were basically used for the mind control experiments. They knew, especially people with genetics of blonde hair, blue eyes, red hair, green eyes, Such people have an enzyme in their genetics that allow for mind control to be more acceptable to the mind and the body.
What did they do with these children afterwards?
Well, their bodies were, those who didn't make it, their bodies were disposed of. They would burn them, bury them under the ocean. They would dispose of them in whatever manner was convenient at the time.
What about those who did make it?
Well, a lot of them, unfortunately, are in such a mental state that they're not able to function very well in society. A lot of the people that we see in mental institutions, a lot of the people that we see in prisons, many of them have been subjected to these mind control experimentations. One of the people that I did meet over the years, also connected to government, told me that he knows in a very remote area outside of Reno, Nevada, the government has a facility where they actually store some of the subjects of mind control who are being used for continuous study under the guise of it being a home for the elderly or insane.
So rather than kill them off, they have put them in this facility.
Well, yes, they need to study.
To watch them.
Yeah, they need to study the effects. How long will a person live? What will their mind be like? Will they regain their memory? It's like being a lab rat, basically, they want to see what the results will be so they know what the population generally can expect.
Is this a black ops program, Stewart? I mean, Congress doesn't know about it.
Well, yes, of course it's undercover, but there are many people in government now that know about it. Years ago, back in the 60s, 70s, and even into the 80s, I'm pretty sure that many of the people in mainstream government didn't know about it. But these days, the secret government is becoming the public government.
Well, that's true.
And so there's many now who know about this. And, of course, I was told that the government will never admit a mind control experimentation because then they would be subjected to lawsuits and have to pay for medical coverages, etc. So they're never, ever going to admit that.
Now, this mind control series of experiments, Stuart, what did they want to accomplish?
Bottom line is they wanted to create a global robotic society, very much like you'd see on Star Trek, the Borg, where everyone has a specific function, a specific designation. No one asks any questions. You just go through your life doing what you're told to do in a specific function, and you never deviate from that. And in that way, it ensures a society that does not change, and the control system stays intact.
My gosh.
And you know what? They're pretty much there. When I look out there in the public and I hear how people react to things, they just believe whatever they're told. No one questions anything. Yes, there's a few people who like myself, who make a lot of noise. But for the most part, people just follow along and don't question anything.
It's like the Pied Piper of Hamlet.
Yeah, they're afraid. They're afraid because what will the government say? What will they do to me? So they just go along with everything. You see this in the airports. You see this in office buildings. Everyone is terrified of going outside the box.
Stewart, I want you to stay with us. Your website, of course, is expansions.com. When we come back, let's talk about your presence of knowledge with the aliens and the reptilians. This is an incredible story just around the corner here. It's Stewart Swerdlow. He is our guest tonight. If you need to email me, that's George at coasttocoastam.com. And those of you who are fast blasting me now, watching the TV show on the West Coast and also listening to the radio program, I hope you have a good time and enjoy yourself. Get yourself a little pile there of popcorn and just sit back and relax and enjoy. We'll be back in just a moment on Coast to Coast AM, so simply do not touch your dial. So do you think there's an alien presence here on planet Earth? Stewart thinks so. We'll talk with him about that next on Coast to Coast AM.